Business is good. We've got projects. We're backed up almost several months, just trying to keep up with the projects that we have right now. It's kind of an interesting time in AV where the course of AV is changing and what we do, and people are starting to repurpose their spaces because of the new world that we live in, and so we're staying extremely busy. The biggest problem we have right now is finding enough guys to keep up with the work. I run a full crew of 10 guys, and we generally are running 6 to 8 temps on top of that, just to try and keep up with the workload. Absolutely. I think that we're back on the growth pattern. When COVID hit, in 2020, we kind of saw just a little bit of a dip because of all the shutdowns and stuff, and then kind of some growth where a lot of commercial real estate kind of doubled down on their spaces. And I'll tell you, those are the people that we've seen become really successful in leasing their spaces right now. I've got several commercial real estate companies that are leasing spaces left and right because they took advantage of that period of time and said, okay, the world is now changing. How we do business is changing, how we sell our spaces and what sells our spaces is changing now from what it used to be. And those people like Car Properties, who we're at today, and Altus, American Real Estate Partners, some of our larger clients doubled down on their spaces, and they said, okay, let's put in more video conferencing, let's put in more workspaces, let's put in more community areas, and those things, they're leasing properties left and right now. So I think that AV is changing. I think it's growing. I think that the commercial is starting to grow. And now that everybody's starting to come back to the offices, I mean, everybody's seen traffic's doubled from what it was a year ago now. I think some companies are while I think some companies say, listen, the cost savings was great for working from home, and for some models it works, some companies are finding out that it doesn't work for their model, and they're coming back into the office. And a lot of them are going into new spaces, and they're looking for these spaces that were newly redone during COVID. And the ones that aren't are quickly now trying to say, okay, well, we didn't do it during COVID because we weren't sure. Now, what are we going to do to make our Class A spaces competitive with what else is out there on the market? And so that's kept us extremely busy, putting in video conferencing centers, building music throughout. They want to create, since people have been in that kind of home work environment, they want to kind of bring some of that home feel into the business place and give them all the amenities and things that they need. So you see a lot of, I'm doing more building music systems now than I've ever done in my life, because they want that kind of very welcoming, feel whenever you come into a building. They want the very prestigious, kind of like you're walking into a Ritz-Carlton if you were a hotel, and then being able to provide all the things that they need in a workspace. So some of these larger companies have gone from their very large spaces and have said, okay, because of COVID, we've got all this work from home, so we're going to condense our spaces back down. And so some of their amenity spaces in those spaces have gone down, like the conference rooms and huddle spaces and things like that, they've gotten rid of. So now it's very important for the building to have these amenities available to companies like that, so that they can get in there, get what they need to do, and then potentially grow their space from within the same building without having to go look for another place. Absolutely. So, our main vertical, of course, is the amenity space, and we do a lot of tenant fit outs as well. And I think that's one of the way my business is changing, is that we're doing a lot more tenant fit outs now than we used to. But it's two very different ways to kind of approach what you're putting into the spaces. And in an amenity space, the most important thing is ease of use. It's so very important that somebody can come in without having any training, without any instruction, and look at one of our keypads and know how to turn the system on. That's the most important thing when you design that system. You take what you feel to be 90% of the needs of the people, be able to come in, touch one button, and the conferencing system comes on. Be able to come in, touch one button, and this happens, right? Those are the important things in an amenity space. And so we start at the URC keypad. and I say, what are the fewest number of buttons that I can put on this front page in order to make my system work? And then I work backwards from there, and I say, okay, now that I've got the 5 buttons that I need, what equipment allows me to make those 5 buttons all that I need? And so then I go back and I find what kind of video distribution I want, what kind of audio distribution I want, and with HDA internal to URC, they make it that much easier. Building music systems now used to take, a DSP from one company, amplifiers from another company, a two-way module from another company, to make all these things work. Now with HDA, it's all kind of internal, so I can make my audio mixers completely. My audio mixers are completely already in the URC programming software, so I don't have to make them all from scratch. So, the amenity space is all about ease of use, right? And URC has really allowed us to do that in these spaces by doing that. Now, when we go into a customer who has their own private space, we need to get a little bit more specific. But the great thing about having a client space is that I get to train somebody. I can show somebody how to use the technology, which means that I can get very tight in on what their needs are. Listen, we have this very special thing that only we do. Every third Thursday of the month, we need to be able to put one certain kind of thing on the television that nobody else will ever see, a certain kind of signage player or something that came from overseas, or we have this one device. And so we can integrate all that stuff because URC is so easy to integrate with. We can integrate these different types of pieces into a space, and we're able to train them. In an amenity space, 99% of the people that use my system, I'm never going to be able to train them. I'm never going to know who they are. I'm never going to see them use our system. We're just going to know whether or not it works by either coming in and watching them or the feedback that we get. So, so it's kind of two very different markets, and how you design them, how you bid them, and kind of the end results that you get. So I think that it's all about simplicity. I think that AV as a whole for many years was growing in capability. And so everybody was so focused on what else can we do? What else can we do? What else can we do? What kind of, can we voice activate? Can we do video conferencing? Can we do it with multiple cameras? Can we make a room multi-purpose with 3 rooms that divide into one and back and forth? And expanding our capabilities and technology. There will always be that. For a while, AV has really kind of gone that direction. And now what we're seeing is that AV in these commercial spaces are starting to come back in and say, okay, we now know that we can do just about anything. You got a dream and a valid credit card, we can make it happen, But what do we do to make it easy for our end users? Because now we've expanded so much into so many capabilities that it becomes very difficult for some people to use. So how do we take all that technology and start to automate it? How do we bring it back in so that end users can use it without having to read a manual or have instruction and things like that? And so I think that our industry is changing in that way. And I think that the new products that you see come on board are all going to be about what processes it can make easier to use. HDA was so great because, like I said, with the music system, I can take what I had 6 pieces doing in integration all down to something that's native inside of the software that we're already using. It builds out the audio mixer for you, and you can pick and choose what you want it to show and what you don't. And so I think products like HDA that make it simpler for the end user, that make it simpler for our customers to use, that's where AV is going to be going in the future. I mean, even in the residential market, you've seen that happen, where we used to be building all these huge luxury homes with all this crazy technology in them, and now we're seeing a lot of we're having to learn as an industry how to integrate the things that make life simpler, like Alexa and Google Home and all these other things that they do on the residential side. And I think that the commercial side is going to be the same way. Yeah. So, one of the things I like to, first of all, Carr is a great partner to work with. They're extremely forward-thinking when it comes to technology. They're always looking to improve property to property. And then once we've improved, how do we go back and make it consistent through the other properties? And I think one of the reasons that they've been so successful is because there's also a sense of consistency in design, that we do the same thing in each property throughout. And so all their property management, one of the things that happens in real estate, commercial real estate a lot, is property management teams move from buildings to buildings within portfolios. Positions become available, needs change, people who specialize in different things, ownerships change. And so it's very important to keep the technology consistent. So when you go to one of our car properties buildings and you see a keypad, it's going to look very similar to the keypad at the last car properties building you were at. It's going to operate very much the same way. And I think it's also important for retaining tenants. So when you have a tenant that's used to using an office space and then they need to maybe grow, or even if they have to condense and they have to look at another building, they're going to walk into the amenity space and see the same type of technology inside those amenity spaces and other car properties buildings. So they're going to be at least able to keep them within the portfolio. So I think that's, extremely important with them as well. I think commercial real estate right now has really kind of come to terms with the technology that they need in their buildings. And, they're listening to their tenants. Their tenants are guiding the way to what the needs are in the marketplace. And there are some very successful groups out there that are doing it. Car properties. Altus is extremely, they're based out of the DC area, has been extremely successful in leasing out spaces. Lerner. So